Welcome to my second location. I don't understand. Like, you guys will not understand how big of a hassle today was to get this podcast set up because I changed like at least three positions trying to get some good lighting because I'm not working with any like professional gear right now. So, we are in my bedroom. This is now the new bunny chair, the new bunny setup. Hopefully, this will become more decorative over time. I really love Valentine's Day decorations, as you guys can tell. There's a note from my mom up there if you guys want to zoom in and read it. And you can see my light because this is how I get the most beautiful lighting for all of you beautiful people. But on the other hand, I'm in my bedroom. I've got a beautiful view next to me. And if you want to see the kind of vibes in Spain, because I'm in my bedroom in Spain, you guys can go ahead and check out any of the vlogs up there. But until then, my name is Lana, and welcome back to another episode of Burrowed Thoughts. As always, I'm gonna be your host, and this is another individual episode where we're gonna be talking about fear. Like, what is it? What does it do? Why is it here? What's going on? So, at the end of the day, fear is like a survival instinct. It's this very basic idea of coming up with reactions, like your body reacting to how to survive. And now, when you think of like the hierarchy of needs, that's what it's called, when you pass like the actual basis of survival, so you have like food, water, shelter, then the issue becomes the fact that your brain's going to start like creating its own problems and put you in this really uncomfortable situation where your brain is beginning to create problems for itself. So that's always like really, really, really awkward. And I've done it a million times my own self. Like, the fact that when I was in high school, I thought that every like minute detail or experience that is like going to hinder my life tremendously, but it never really did. It never does. So just it's this kind of reaction that your brain's going to come up with problems, and then you think you have all these fears that you need to survive, but you actually don't. Like, it's not real, or it's not always real. And that's going to be the biggest factor of acceptance that needs to come from understanding what fear is the fact that half of the problems are your own brain. Like my mom loves to say is you're making movies in your own head, and that is literally so accurate, because sometimes when you're concerning yourself of like, oh, what do people think of me, what do people think of me, I'm going to tell you, this is the fact that you're never going to know. Why bother? Why think about it if you are never going to be in the situation where you're actually sitting there and realizing who's saying what and what all the time? Like, you're no Edward Cullen. You're not going to start reading minds and see what people think of you. That's never going to happen in your lifetime. That's never going to happen in my lifetime. So why bother? Why care? Why not just like let life do its own thing and you take a back seat on making those decisions and just exist? Which sounds weird, but I think a lot of people forget to just exist. To just be present is more accurate in those terms. But being just present allows life to take on so many different forms that you didn't realize life had, because you're being so conscious of the present moment and not the future and not the past, because those things are going to hinder you. And the past also creates so many fears and so many different kind of strategies to get over fear is going to come from looking at the past, looking what hinders you, what are you creating for obstacles for yourself. Because most of the time, like I'm saying, it's yourself. You're creating these problems for yourself. Like, hi, I'm the problem, it's me. That is what's going on. And the other people can either like accelerate the issue, make it 10 times bigger than it needs to be, or you can just say, fuck it, literally. There's no other way to do it other than to say fuck it, because these survival instincts that fear derives from, that fear creates itself within, I'm telling you right now, is not actually what fear is. Like, it's this idea that you guys need to kind of come up with, like, me too, because I'm going to be talking about my own biggest fear in like a couple minutes anyways, where it's going to be this idea of so much self-reflection, like of the past, present, and future, and being here right now, right in this moment, enjoying everything and falling in love with everything over and over and over again. That is going to be what kind of propels you into being the best self and being who you want to be. Because if you're not sitting here and thinking that, oh, there is someone I want to be, or hey, like I could have done this better, or if you're not the type to sit in bed and think about, like, oh, I shouldn't have said that or shouldn't have done this, that is you trying to become a better person. So obviously, you have a need for this podcast, or I even have a need for this podcast to sit and talk about these things, because if not, how am I going to continue to move forward? This is just my own way of coping, is talking to a camera and trying to understand where I'm coming from and what's best for me. But on that note, what is best for me? Let's talk about it. I've kind of like, I hope you're sitting here now understanding that fear is just a survival instinct. You're making movies in your head. What movie I make in my fucking head all the time is the fact that I am so, like, I was talking about this last episode, which is here if you guys haven't seen it already. Last episode, I was talking about my biggest fear is money. Well, actually, I didn't say it. I just exposed it right now. So, to everybody, my biggest fear is money. I am so terrified of it. And which sounds so stupid to some people, or, I've never actually met somebody who for reference, I've interviewed many, many people for this podcast, and not on camera, but just, hey, what is your biggest fear? What scares you? What are you thinking about? What keeps you up at night? And that's not sharks and spiders. And I've heard a lot of people say so many different things, but the fact that nobody has said money, because I will always be very transparent and share my own fear when I'm doing these discussions. And my biggest fear is money. It's the fact that I'm not sure how that comes out of it or how I've gotten there, but it's a journey to self reflect and figure it out. But nobody seems to have that fear. And then I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, which I will be doing a review on due to the fact that it's so related to my fear. So stick around for that, subscribe, and all that fun jazz. I realized by reading Rich Dad Poor Dad that this is actually a fear so many people have, and it's just the question of whether or not you acknowledge it. Do you know you have this, like, fear for money, or is it just the fact that you're like, oh, no, 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 I've got to go pay my bills, I got to be a part of the rat race, or whatever it may be. But not everyone recognizes that they have this fear, and I think I've recognized the fact that I've had this for years. Like, I've always known, as soon as I started making my own money, or literally as a little girl playing video games that involved saving money to buy things, all those types of issues, I ended up knowing that I feel like really guilty using money. That's just how it's become. And I'm going to do so many more episodes on this, so stick around if you're interested, but I'm going to bring up the scarcity mindset. I grew up with a scarcity mindset, and not because of the fact that, I had nothing. That wasn't the case. It was the fact that I felt that everyone else needed to be provided for before I was going to be provided for. That is what totally hindered everything about being me, pretty much, was the fact that whenever it came down to Christmas, or, like I said, playing those games, I did not want people to spend their money on me. And I tend to say, like, oh, spend it on this person or do this. And I can, like, attest to you that my mom will tell you that I have rejected so many gifts, so many opportunities that involve money in my life, because of the fact that I don't want to hinder somebody else's opportunity. That was something that it took me so long to realize, but I always knew I was doing. I always knew that me rejecting my grandparents' gifts were kind of this self reflection. But what didn't help either was, as I was young and I was playing these games, and, like, for example, it was a farming game. You needed like 2K to buy a new farmhouse. I would save up until I had 4K so that when I lose the 2K, I still had 2K so I could do it. It was like the most complex shit in my mind for like a 7-year old. I was money managing to such a horrible degree, but I was being praised for it. I had so many adults who would watch me play these games thinking I was doing such a good job, or they realized that I had really a lot of money managing skills, but these skills at the end of the day really, really hindered me. They were not like something I look back on it and I don't think I deserved to be praised for it whatsoever. And if someone would have just allowed the time to talk to me about the fact that you can use money for whatever it may be, or, spend some money on yourself, make yourself happy. Obviously, like, don't put yourself $10,000 in debt, but just making myself happy a little bit would have been much, much different, I think, growing up. But because I had this scarcity mindset, I thought that everyone should be provided before me. And I was being praised for what seemed to be good money habits, but you need a balance when it comes to money. You need a balance of being able to spend for yourself and enjoying spending for yourself, and then also that saving, the budgeting, all that. And I don't think enough people explain that to me. And I would go, like, when I was in high school, to budgeting classrooms or seminars. I took like accounting. I took so many different financial management stuff because I knew that I was good at it and I could save so much money. But the kind of like almost addiction that came from just saving my money and keeping it then became, I was so scared to just do something as simple as like, oh, I'm gonna go like out to eat with my friends. That shit makes me shake. I freak out. I am not comfortable with the idea of like, oh, I'm gonna go shopping. I cannot tell you the last time I went on a shopping spree spending money. It scares me. And even so, like, I walk in, like, I think Brandy Merville here in Madrid is so fucking cute. And the items are just adorable. And I would tend to buy a lot of the things, or I would like, I would put in my basket like 10 items of clothing and then take it out to only three because I would feel so guilty spending money to the point where I'm like ready to cry with cash. And it's scary because, one, not many people will talk about this experience or talk about how scared they are of money, but the truth is that I am, and I'm working on it, and I'm trying so hard to work on it because I know that if I don't, there's going to be continuous obstacles in my life, and everything I've been told about money is not necessarily true. Like, money comes back, money will return. It is something that flows freely into my life, into other people's life, and there can be abundance for everyone. But I felt growing up with the scarcity mindset that I there wasn't enough money, but money is infinite. What is finite is time. And that's what I'm working on currently. Like, this is my goal for this new school year, is the fact to just enjoy being with my friends, to enjoy going out, going getting coffee, and doing all these different things, because what it allows me to do is to enjoy the finite of life instead of thinking about the infinite and how am I going to get more? What am I going to do? All this, like, out the window for me. I'm really going to try to push this aspect of what can I do for myself and make that a priority, and make enjoying the invisibles. This is what my mom calls it. And I reference my mom like 20 times in a single podcast episode. I'm so sorry, guys. But interview with her coming soon. She is just literally such a big inspiration in my life that I tend to just constantly reference her for anything and everything. She's even the reason, like, I'm called Bunny, and this is a bunny podcast. So shout out, mom, shout out. But my mom calls it enjoying the invisibles in life, because the fact that family, friendship, relationship, those connections are kind of like those Japanese ideals of like red strings. Like, you're connected to someone through a red string. And what she presents that is like, you will never see that red string, but that is invisible, but that is what you need to enjoy in life and make the most out of. It's not going to be money. And I should applaud my mom more for just being so generous with me and with everything, but she sometimes even has like a really hard time of understanding like, why am I so scared? But growing up with a type of mindset like I've explained, allows you to kind of put yourself in your own little box. And it wasn't somebody else's fault. It was me. I'm the problem. And it's me who has to fix it. So, like I'm saying, I'm walking through steps of one, recognizing where it came from in the past, what has happened for me to get to the point where I am today, and to bring that into my adulthood. And now I'm looking at how do I remove that as I move forward. Now, I've taken, if you guys are interested and you guys have kind of similar ideals of kind of biggest fear, there's a really amazing couple episodes from Melissa Griffin. She has a quiz on her uh, on her website. That's what it is, on her website, guys. And it's called the Money Magnet Quiz, I think, something like that. And I've taken it so I understand what type of person I am when I'm dealing with money, and also the advice and kind of blog posts. And it's just like continue to read. That is literally why I read Rich Dad Poor Dad. I read a bunch of different pieces that come from money, like making money and how to be more comfortable with money or bad habits, stuff like that. I read so much about because of the fact that I do want to be the type of person who can free myself from my biggest fear. And my biggest fear is money. So that then translates into, if you're like watching my podcast and if you are interested in what is fears, what are your biggest fears and how to overcome this through personal growth, then you need to start looking inside and understanding and ranking and prioritizing what fears you have, because obviously like I have other fears, but I focus so much on my money issue because I do realize how much that's going to hinder my life in the long run, that I don't tend to really care about the rest. Or I work solely on it sometimes. Like it's not a constant battle every full moon where I'm like, get rid of this shit. Please, universe. Like, let's get through it together. But recognizing your own fears is step one. Step two, recognizing where it comes from, and then analyzing how that's affecting your past, present, and how it will affect your future. And it's just this whole aspect of really being able to understand where you're coming from and understanding like the movies we make in our own head about being scared, and then being able to do say like, I have come a long way, a long way from when I was a teenager and how I felt spending money with my friends or with other people. And obviously nobody's gonna fucking applaud me for it. Like, nobody's going to tell me how great I'm doing because nobody understands emotionally how hindering this is for me or what it is doing to me. So, the fact that it's a journey for me and myself, says so much. It does so much. And I need to applaud myself more. The fact that this is just the way it goes, the way I want it to go, and I'm the own creator of my journey, and you guys are the creator of your journey. So don't let your fears come in a place where you're going to make your own obstacles and make your own movies and make your own problems. Allow that to be freedom through being present, through reflection, through shadow work, or maybe you're watching other people's videos. That's tended to, like, I do that all the time, watching other people's videos about money and budgeting, or if that's my case, or if you're scared of commitment, watching other people's like perspective on what it's like to be in a relationship. Because when I talk about the scarcity mindset doesn't only affect money. That is the first thing that people think of, I would imagine, when it says scarcity, or scarcity of like resources. But that's not technically what it is. Like, scarcity can come into almost every aspect, almost every human emotional need. You could have been growing up in a situation where you realize or don't realize that you felt as if that one resource, that emotional fulfillment, is scarce. And that comes into relationships all the time. I see so many people living in a scarcity mindset where, I know I'm talking about it so much now, and I will do like a full episode later, but I've seen so many people grow up with this idea that love is scarce. And that way they're going to kind of just cling on to whoever is going to give them that affection without actually thinking about what's best for their future self, what's best for them. And that puts so much into your own hands and puts so much that can hinder you. So I really, really want to be the type of person who looks into what do I feel scarce about? What do I feel like I'm missing in life? Because overcoming fears will mean that you're looking at what's missing, because you're not looking at, okay, what is like bad. Don't look at it negatively. What's missing so you can put that in your life and make it better and feel better. I'm going to like scream that for the rest of this podcast is it's about I just smacked my own self with the microphone. Ah, ah. Anyways, it's about making you feel better. I'm smacking everything. Stop. Stop. I'm passionate, baby, passionate. It's it's so much about just making yourself feel better and making yourself feel empowered and confident, because once you start to realize that you have the power to start doing these things, then you can do those things and just say adios, arrivederci, any language, and just say goodbye to it. It's so important, and I don't think you need to read like 200 books on, how to overcome fears, but you need to target your own specific ones and start understanding maybe journaling is going to be that outlet for you, maybe meditating is going to be that outlet for you. There's so many different outlets you can have. Literally nowadays with technology, you could do like 10 trillion things. Maybe watching videos and people talking about it, or reading blogs where people are talking about it, and then you're like, "Oh, I feel the same way. I can relate." Or I love this factor too is watching TV shows and seeing what characters you can really relate to. Rick Riordan calls it a fatal flaw. Like, what is your fatal flaw? And watching these characters, or like reading Percy Jackson when I was a kid, allowed me to then be like, oh, okay, what is like my fatal flaw as a person? Because then after, you want to kind of be like, of course, you want to be like a demigod of Athena or whoever it is. Those aspects, and just bringing that character or bringing whatever resource that you're kind of really, really into and putting it into perspective into your own life will allow you to make a lot of differences and allow yourself to really start making that journey of what is fear, what is hindering my life, and hopefully me sharing my own aspects of like what hinders my life allows you to kind of see maybe you are, or maybe you're not. Maybe you're similar to me. Maybe you're like, this woman's fucking crazy, whatever it may be. And that in itself, like when I was talking about fears that I've overcome before, that has allowed me to take on the confidence to just like this idea for money, for me being scared of money is like a monster. It's this huge fucking like boss, like final round, it's kicking my ass, but I plan to kick its ass back, okay? And this some like you then you have the minor bosses that you got to kick their ass in, and I've kicked my judgment of like fear of judgment of what other people think of me, because in high school that was something I really, really struggled with and I was really conscious about, and then I'm still working on it today, because obviously that's not something, a lot of these fears are not something that's going to go away overnight. Fear doesn't go away overnight. You're not going to have like, this hurrah moment. There's this episode of Gravity Falls actually where Grunkle Stan, he has a fear of heights, and then Mabel, his like grand niece, takes him up onto a water tower, and then all of a sudden he's like, "Oh my gosh, I'm not scared of heights anymore." And then she is. Like it's not just going to happen like that. You're probably going to still have these moments where you're like, what am I doing? And most likely for the rest of my life, I'm going to have moments, like especially when it comes to those bigger moments where I decide to start like actually buy a house or to buy an office or whatever it may be, like down the road. A car, I can't drive those, so I don't know how that one's going to work. But stuff like that, I'm probably going to have those moments where I'm going to think back and be like, even if at that point I've overcome my fear, that I'm still going to have like the iffy vibe about it. Iffy vibe. So of course, overcoming the fear of judgment, which I will like gladly say that I have done, because I really don't give two craps about what people say about me, or posting this podcast. And I know a lot of people, since I've posted the first episode, has said to me like, oh, you're doing such amazing things, like you're so good, like congratulations on um posting it. I could never, like I don't want to think about what it would be like if I posted something like that, or how do you just like do it? And the thing is that that was something I got over a long time ago. Like before I got into like the working industry, I stopped caring about what people would think or say about me, because if not, I was just going to spend the rest of my life not being able to do what I love. And this is what I love, is getting in front of a camera, just being able to do and talk about things, and to kind of highlight so many of the goods in life. And that is probably one of my biggest motivators. And once you have that motivator, you can realize what fears are hindering you actually doing or fulfilling that kind of purpose you have in life, which is so crucial. But really, at the end of the day, fear is something that's almost imaginable. You imagine it. It's something that doesn't necessarily just like come into existence. It's got a past, it's got a present, it has a future, and you need to realize and actualize it all into your life, and like accept it as it is. Know that it exists and be proud that it exists, but don't let something like that continue to hinder your future. And that's what I mean by like, God, this is beautiful. I'm adoring this. Like, it's really a past, present, future. Figure it out through whatever means. For me, a lot of the time is journaling, and journaling in the cycle of the moon is what I do and I love to do. So I will write everything I want to bring into my life in the new moon, and then in the full moon I will release everything I need out of the life so that I can continue. And then when I have that full moon cycle, I can really acknowledge and do the difference. I know in Atomic Habits, they do it a little differently. They do a 6 months checkup, so write everything you want in life, everything you want to release. And also highlight it as skills instead of a goal. Like, to be here and sit here and be like, I want to be a content creator is a goal, but Atomic Habits will tell you that you can break down that goal. And the like being a content creator is different from saying that I want to be a bit like I want to be a good videographer. I want to be able to take aesthetic videos and nice videos and to work on that and to create characters, because and that is something I love to see on screen. I want to create characters. And once you start really planning all that stuff out, and I feel bad for like kind of referencing myself all the time, but this is the only way I can kind of get it to you guys and get it through your head, because of the fact that I don't know every single individual that watches my podcast. I don't know them well enough to really give them a whole analysis. And that's why I do write on my Instagram the carousels that kind of summarize and put these all of what I'm talking about, and without the references of myself, into actionable steps so that you guys can actually maybe put it to the test and see what works and what doesn't work. But first step is acknowledging always what is fear for you. And it could be so many different things. For me, it's just movies that I make up in my head. And for everyone else, it could actually be a phobia, and a really bad one. And if you do have that, like I said before, I'm not a professional, so don't reference me. Disclaimer. There's so many different little strategies you can use in life, and that's why I'm so excited to get into other episodes where we can really pinpoint different fears and enjoy looking at what it is. For this episode, it was really about money and what I've been doing to try to understand my relationship with money and to improve it. Also, affirmations. I do that 24/7. I do it all the time, almost every day. I listen to crescent affirmations, money affirmations, like her millionaire ones or whatever. Not because I want to be a millionaire, but because I want to have this relationship in which I can really reprogram my subconscious. And affirmations are a great way to reprogram your subconscious if you haven't started working on that already, because a lot of this comes from the subconscious, like I was saying, comes from the past into the present, and will continue to follow through into the future if you're not being more present with it. So, to summarize everything I've gone over in the past like 20 minutes, is the fact that first off, you want to figure out, what does fear mean to you, and what type of relationship do you have with your fears? Do you have many fears? Do you have one or two? How many are you dealing with? Then also you want to look at, how is the current present, like how you're reacting right now to your fear, is affected by your past, and how is it going to continue affecting you in your future? And think about it, like, go 5 years back, go 5 years forward, see if you continue to let this be an obstacle, what type of obstacles are you going to face? Or what obstacles have you faced? And kind of acknowledge where you are now. And with that now, try to be more present with it and to sit with it and to let it exist instead of letting it consume. Just sit with it, enjoy it, because at the end of the day, these are human emotions that we all have and that you'll never get to relive. And maybe in 50 years, you're going to be laughing at what you were scared of when you're 20. And that always happens. That always happens. So to just enjoy the moment now and then be like, okay, I'm going to laugh about it later. But to figure out now, what does it mean? What exists? Why does it exist? And to then start finding those steps, like really think about yourself and what you enjoy in life, and whether that's like playing sports. That's definitely not something for me, but I know playing sports is really therapeutic to a lot of people. Maybe you really just need to kick a football around to then understand where you are and to think about it and to have that therapeutic moment where you are reflecting on yourself. And reflection every 6 months, every 2 weeks, every month is totally up to you and up to your schedule. And overcoming a fear is not something you need to have consume your life. It's something you can do every once in a while, do often, do not often. It really doesn't matter. These things are meant to fit around your life and to fit who you are. And they're uniquely yours. So enjoy the moment that everything is unique to you. Not everyone's going to feel the same way that you feel, whether it's about money, because I can feel very different than you can, or maybe it's being judged. You can feel very different than I do. And to also acknowledge and remember to stick around for more conversations about the scarcity mindset and recognize what type of mindset do you have. And affirmations, like I was saying, can really help you in those situations where you do have a scarcity mindset, or and start to create an abundant mindset. Or maybe there's just a few things that you're like, I want a dream apartment. Crescent affirmations, the girl I used to write my own affirmations, but it's been so much more convenient for my life. And this is what I mean by like, it fits your schedule. I literally then started looking up like different videos I could use and watch instead of creating my own, then recording it, and then putting my headphones on every 5 minutes a day. It was a lot for me. It was a lot of time consuming because then after I would have to sit them and write them all out, then re listen to them. So I just started finding videos that I would love to listen to. And that is how I got into Crescent Affirmations, who was my favorite. So just affirmations work to create an abundance mindset. Maybe you're very interested, instead of doing meditation, journaling, you use your own interests to figure out where you need to be. You're a cinema geek. Watch a bunch of cinema, figure out the characters, feel who you love and who you don't love, and what's wrong and what makes you uncomfortable watching. There are so many different ways and strategies to then start figuring out where are you sitting with your fear? Where are you at? And to then figure out where you're at will then conclude into actionable steps that the universe will give them to you. The universe will show you them. So don't stress too much about all this and let it be relaxed, cuz at the end of the day, this is meant to be something to just kind of have a moment to think and to enjoy, like a little coffee and tea and watch, because I don't want to you guys to be like too concerned. Instead, I want to help and make sure that you guys are kind of becoming the best version of yourself, because I love love to watch and push people to be the best selves, to be their best bunnies. Well, on that note, I think I've summarized everything, and I've probably rambled on for way too long about one subject and repeated myself a trillion times, but repetition will help you remember things, okay? I learned that in my political theory class because he repeats everything he says, and I loved it. So, to continue on with this journey, next week we'll be talking about what makes you uncomfortable, what it's like to feel uncomfortable. And for that note, I will then link it up here later on. But enjoy your day, bunnies. I adore you guys, and thank you so much for watching. So stick around to see what comes next. Bye, bunny babies.